And welcome to the No Assembly Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing. And in the absence of our third host, it will be your duo entertaining you tonight on our topic of never retiring. So without further ado, please join us here. If you are a live YouTube member, then you can watch us at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday evenings. If you're in the audio crowd, audio only, then you'll get to hear this whenever we decide to upload it. Without further ado, here is your comedic duo, starting with Romina from the block. Let's give it up. And of course, your second host, he considers himself the Dark Lord of the Internet, Roberto Blake. Welcome to the No Assembly Required podcast, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. Please like and subscribe.
Amazing. Incredible, as always.
Sight.
5 out of 5.
I don't know about all that.
Well, we got to lift each other up, or else who's going to do it, right? If you don't lift yourself up, and if you don't lift your friends up, then who's going to do it? Except maybe your mom. Hopefully.
Me.
All right. How are you doing today or tonight?
I'm doing all right. It's actually not been too bad today. I still don't know if I have like the energy to do everything I want to do to finish out the day after the stream, but chugging along.
Cool. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling the same way. Just made myself some ginger turmeric tea. Hanging out. You know, I got to drink my tea while we do this.
Yeah. I was going to try and get a video out tonight. I think I'll at least record something tonight, but I think it's going to be tomorrow. I just I don't feel like chugging. I don't feel like sprinting to the finish line.
Sometimes you just gotta chill a little bit, you know?
Just a little bit. I want to get back on the discipline train, though. I do want to actually start busting out video after video after video. Super inspired. Like my friend CoffeeZilla, he's actually trying to do 7 videos, 7 days.
Are you?
And I'm like, oh, God bless.
But indefinite, as a schedule.
Well, he's gonna try
it. Is it like Veda?
No, it's not Veda, but they're gonna try it, and then I think they're gonna try and maintain it. And I'm like, oh dear Lord, God in heaven, because once you cross 500,000 subscribers, if you're really into YouTube, and Steven's really into YouTube, he's super passionate about YouTube. I wish I was this I'm passionate, but I'm more passionate about photography than YouTube. So I'm I have something to be passionate about, but I'm not as passionate about. I don't think I'm as passionate as about anything as most YouTubers and TikTokers are about their content. I think that's also owed to the fact that I'm older than them.
No, I feel you on that. Because I've been doing the whole thing with those TikTokers, and I keep commenting on certain little facts that they keep dropping. And they're just they're in their early 20s, and it's one of them I think is still 19. And they're so serious and passionate about it, and they take it so professionally. And it's really quite admirable, but it's also, I'm part of me is a little bit envious because I feel like that energy is not in me, and it's I try and I have my TikTok and I did it every day for almost a year. I mean, I was doing stuff on TikTok, but it was more for fun. And then as soon as I was feeling tired, I just stopped. It wasn't even
I can do things toward a goal, because the thing is, not everything for me, I'm weird though, not everything has to be fun for me. It's better if it is, obviously, but I'm okay with the understanding that not everything will be fun all the time. It's hard to do things if I'm not interested in them, but I don't necessarily need them to be fun, and I can enjoy a challenging process too. So there's a little bit of that I can hang. It's fine. I do stuff that's not super fun, and it's fine. And sometimes something even that's stressful or grueling, it's I can enjoy it from a like, oh, I like rose to the challenge type thing. So there's something to that. I like hitting goals. The thing is, I just also just feel like I think my podcast, aside from this one that I do with you and Audrey, I feel like my podcast will be something I do more of just because I can express myself without worrying about the results, because the result for that would be getting the podcast out, also sometimes interfacing with a guest and getting interesting conversations going. But then also with that one, if I have a goal to measure, it'd be like, I want the watch time, because then it qualifies that channel to be monetized. And then that makes it practical. There's a little bit of a motivation to do it. Like sometimes you need incentives for motivation. It's not even about the money, to be honest, because I don't even think that podcast would make a lot of money. It's just that it's like a mental, like it removes a mental barrier or block in terms of justifying spending time on it versus something else, because we're taught that we have to justify how we spend our time by how much money we get out of things. It's also really hard to not do that when you come from an immigrant family. It's like really hard.
Right. I think too, there's like it's kind of like this weird place of, there's the people who will say you have to make a living doing what you're passionate about. And then there's the other group of people who say, don't ever try to make a living out of the thing you're passionate about.
I offer a third path.
Right.
If you're really passionate about something, you have to understand whether you're also protective of it. With me, you know that that's photography. I don't want to do photography solely like for money to try to make money off of it, because then I have to make it about what other people want. I can monetize it, but I shouldn't try to make a living as a photographer. I'm probably good enough to do that, by the way. And I did it for a job before, but I like same thing with even graphic design. I can monetize those things, but I have to do it on my terms, where people are coming for my style and my thing, not to make me, I'm doing their project, but they're coming for it being done my way, because that's the actual commodity. Now, that's very hard to live off of if you're not the best in the world at what you do, which is why you have to be realistic about that. So what I tell people is to use Ikigai. All right, do you like something? Because just don't do things you hate for money. That's the bad part that people compromise. Will it make you money? Are you actually good at it, or do you just wish you were good at it? And does it match your ethics and what you believe makes the world a better place versus a worse place? So don't do something that makes the world worse just because it pays really well. That's why some people are out of balance, because they feel guilty. They feel out of balance. Now, the other thing is you have to actually have a real understanding of what makes the world. Audrey's not off the show forever. She's just traveling.
Hey,
like,
man.
Don't tease them. Don't tease them. They'll take it seriously. They'll believe you.
I'm out here making jokes and you just got to run
They'll
over
believe
them.
you. They'll think that we have drama. Like, this is YouTube. You can't be playing with people's feelings.
All right.
What I was saying is, like, deep down, some people either feel real guilt because they know that they're making the world a worse place, or they've let people guilt them into believing that their job makes the world a worse place, or that their income makes the world a worse place, which is really stupid. That's really dumb to think. Like, it's very rare and very unlikely that what you do, mere mortal that you are with your limited capacity, is actually making the world a worse place. It's very unlikely. It's a few people where it's true. It's very unlikely. People have no humility. And so you have to believe that what you're doing makes the world a better place and is good. You have to know that it'll make you money. There's no point in doing good to be a starving artist. That's just dumb. Or there's no reason to live in noble poverty. There's no such thing as noble poverty. There's nothing noble about being impoverished. So like, don't buy into that nonsense. And there's no point in doing things you hate for money. You should at least do something that you like and that you're ethically comfortable with, and that makes a good living for you, so that you don't have to be resentful, and you should actually be good at it so that you don't have to feel guilty about taking money and not delivering the goods. So like, you have to know what you're good at, be self-aware, have some humility, and don't take people's money if you know you're bad at the job. Don't do shit you hate, because that's just dumb, no matter how much money you're being offered. And don't fall out of line with your ethics. And that if you can manage that much, you will be happy and you'll be fine. But when you try to do something because you think it's good and noble, but you're broke, you're just resented in the end. And you'll also feel like a sucker and you'll feel dumb. And like, you know, you'll feel cheated at some point in life as you get older. You also just will be suffering because you need money for things. So don't let people trick you or gaslight you into thinking that suffering is fine as long as you're doing the right thing. That's a terrible idea. It's stupid.
Yeah, you got to leave that to you got to leave that to the saints.
If you want to do that, go be in a monastery, join a cloister or a clergy, take a vow of silence and poverty and celibacy.
Leave it to Gandhi.
Like, have fun with that. Like, you know.
What are you drinking there? What's your
green tea?
Poison.
Arizona green tea.
All right, kind of poison, but
yeah, probably. Down the hatch.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're dropping bombs right now, so I'm just kind of letting you take over.
Well, I mean, like, what do you think about that? And like, you know, what's your like experience with that type of thing been?
I mean, well, first of all, I guess like my whole brand really, like when I started to focus on RedRomina, was all about that. Was about focusing on your passions, and I guess more than anything is living with intention, and not so much like having your passion being your sole source of income, but also living with passion,
yes.
so that you are certain that what you are doing on a day-to-day basis is not burning you out emotionally, right? Because burnout happens, like mental burnout happens, and that's inevitable even with anything that you love, right? I mean, happens all the time. Like it happened to me a week and a half ago when my computer, or 2 weeks ago when my computer decided to just kaput, right? So that's just kind of like a thing that happens, but it's a totally different thing when it's an emotional burnout, where it's like this constant drilling of your heart and just removing all of the things that make us human, right? That passion, that drive, that fire. And that's really what's important. And like there is a balance there where it's like you're finding the stuff that you're making money off of and what you get paid for, right? But then at the same time, there is something that you're living for, something that you do. I mean, you don't think that I thought, you know how many people have asked me, why didn't I make a series about my Star Trek journey? Like, you don't think that would have made a killer podcast, right?
Where I'm just to end up resenting it because of having to make it fit a frame that makes money.
Exactly. I mean, it was just the thing that I wanted to do for the culture, and then also to just have something that was mine,
not
and
work,
like,
and also not work.
Plus, what if I started watching it and then ended up hating it, right?
And then you have to, I have to get through all of this.
Then I have to get through 800 hours of a franchise that I hate because I signed up for something that I didn't really want to do, but I did it because for the clout.
Made a commitment to the people. Yeah. Because I made a commitment.
Because you made a commitment to the people.
Yeah. That's what, that makes it hard. That's why a lot of times I know the people love doing like pre-launches and they like doing like pre-orders on stuff like that. I have too much anxiety about that. I'm like, what if I announce something and then I like chicken out or don't want to do it, or I'm not interested, or I find out that I'm not capable of it? I would never want to like I don't like pre-selling stuff for that reason. So it's just like, all right, when it's done, it's done. Because like, I don't want to be on the hook for anything. I just never want to be on the hook for anything. It just like, nope, I'm good.
Yeah. Precisely. Oh, yeah. Here it is. You see, that's the problem with making a commitment with people. You see what's happening?
Because then it's, where is it?
Yeah, exactly. They're all like, where are you at? Right? This is yeah. I mean, we just
Yeah,
talked
that's
about
why I have
that too.
no. Yeah, that's why I have no interest in like a lot of like certain things. I mean, a primary example is then I just do things when I want to, but that's like, there's a limit to how much that scales, mind you. Um, so like you have to do these things in somewhat of a practical way. And so what I mean by that, in at least quote unquote somewhat of a practical way, primary example, like there's a lot of things I want to do. I realize that I have to make a lot more content to facilitate those because it's been the most reasonable way of creating traffic, but I'm also running into the limitations of, okay, that means that I'm going to have to give some part of this process to like other people, because it's not that I don't like editing, it's that I don't always feel like it. And so I can't have something that's a business that's beholden to what I feel like when I feel like it. That's wildly impractical, and it's wildly impractical to expect growth from it. It's why I tell people about YouTube. But I'm also almost a decade into this stuff, so it's like it's also hard to like. I'm not burnt out, but it's like because I'm more excited about a lot of it than ever, especially now that the creator economy is something other people care about and are talking about and are speaking about and will call it that. It's like, yes, thank you. Finally, because you know me, like I'll never be able to publicly take credit, but you know that I've been calling this thing the creator economy for years, and now everybody else is.
Yeah, well, I mean, it happens.
Yeah, it's whatever. But here's the thing. So like what's long term look like? Because we talked about, okay, I've been doing this entrepreneur shtick for like a decade. Like what does retirement look like? Well, a lot of people are convinced that it's impossible to retire in America.
It looks like you in a walker in a home.
Right. I'm never retiring, but because I'll just keep working. Like think about it. If you're an artist, why would I retire from being a creator? Why would I retire from being a creator? Why would I do that? If I'm not forced to for health reasons, why would I ever do that?
Because you don't want to anymore.
George R.R. Martin's gonna write until he dies. We've all been worried that he won't finish Game of Thrones before he dies. They won't finish A Song of Ice and Fire before he dies. He's writing what's supposed to be the last book, Winds of Winter. Now it's been a minute though. He's been writing this last book for like 8 years or some shit. Like anyway, like the thing that like I look at when it comes to a lot of this is, first of all, a lot of people just don't believe that you can retire in America at all anymore, and that you'll never be rich. And everyone keeps telling people, oh, you'll never be rich, or you'll never be first of all, the goalpost isn't being a billionaire. The goalpost isn't being a billionaire. You don't have to be a billionaire to be happy. You don't even have to be a millionaire to be wildly happy and be wildly successful and to be okay. Granted, when you decide to stop working, you need to probably be a millionaire if you want to stop working and be comfortable. You probably need to be a millionaire to do that.
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
But if you're working all the way up until you're 65, you should be a millionaire. You're just not going to save your way to being a millionaire by the time you're 65. That's the entire point of retirement accounts. Retirement accounts are investing. That's why also, by the way, do you realize almost all the millionaires in America, like more than half the millionaires in America, they're all over 60. You can look it up. More than half the millionaires in America, they're all 60. They're not all people who inherited money. They're not all people who got lucky. They're people who literally just stayed gainfully employed for 25 or 30 freaking years and put money in their Roth IRA or their 401k. That's all. All anyone has to do. Romina, I think
math. There's also I think one of the things that you kind of touched on Twitter. By the way, if you guys aren't following us on Twitter, @NoAssemblyPod. On Twitter, you mentioned this is an exclusive for rich people. Like anybody can do this. And I think that's math. Something that's I think that message really needs to get put out there, because like we do have all of these financial education content and all of that. And
thank God.
But I think that within that, there is that message of like, the message isn't there of anybody can do this. It's more of like, here are steps to do this, right? But it's not like anybody
It
can
still
do
feels
this.
like just watching and hearing rich people do rich people things and
Right,
tell you that it's
exactly.
easy.
And you know what? I mean, Sorrel, she started her own financial channel. I don't know if you've checked that out,
I have.
but
Actually, I have.
she's killing it. It's fire.
He
I
is.
think
It's
she
like, it
just
is fire.
I think she just got to 100K
She'll get that
subscribers.
channel to 1 million by next year, I
Like,
swear to God.
oh, even like before then, probably, because like she's just like nugs of wisdom, man. Um, but one of the things that I noticed is that she really is pushing that kind of message. Like,
Mhm.
absolutely. She's trying to mention that in all of her videos where she talks about growing wealth. She in every video that I've seen from that channel, she's mentioned, hey, this is like anybody can do it. It's just that people don't know that they can do it.
Do you think that people believe her though, because she's like a successful YouTuber with 1 million subscribers on her main channel and everything like that? Because everyone uses that, like your success against you, to say you're just an out of touch millionaire and you good for you, but we can't do that. And they always use that you're out of touch and you don't get it. And no, you're an outlier. They always use that bullshit answer. I mean, so like, I mean, it makes people feel there's no point in trying to teach them.
Yeah, she's definitely gotten some of that because I've seen that in the comments. Like some people say, "Oh, she's being so tone deaf," and like all this stuff, and I'm just like, y'all were not listening to what she said
They seem to
because
want confirmation that they're struggling, that they're going to be poor, and that the only way they can have anything is to literally just like advocate for the government to legalize their ability to steal it from other people.
the fact that Sorrel, amongst many other people, like let's talk about Graham Stephan, right? Like
Yeah.
the fact that these people
Where's
have
Sorrel from? What's her background?
well, physically she's from Australia,
Mm-hmm.
but she's currently in Iceland, and
Okay.
her background is they didn't really have a lot growing up, from my understanding. Like she didn't come from rich
Money.
parents. She didn't inherit a business. She didn't inherit any kind of wealth. She actually has mentioned, I
So
believe.
she's a legitimately self-made millionaire.
Oh yeah, and I believe she actually started like paying rent in quotes when she was still a kid. Because like her parents were like, yeah, you know, as soon as you're legal of sound and mind, like go out there, get some money, and like pay us rent.
Do it yourself and pay us
Yeah,
rent. Yeah. So like, so she's literally self-made, humble beginnings, not the beneficiary of any real privilege, and she did it as a woman. And she, which is
not
like,
just that, as a creative as well,
and also
which
as
I think is
creative
important.
people, oh, you'll be a starving artist. Don't do that. Go get a law degree, go be a doctor, blah, 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 blah. She did photography, not very easy to do. Did YouTube, not very easy to do. And again, I think when people are like, oh, well, you're a big YouTuber, they dismiss how hard that effing is in the first place. So yes, they did work for it. And yes, just even though it's like, oh, well, you're an outlier, you're an exception because almost nobody is you and everything like that. It's like, that's the point. You want an outlier situation because almost no one's a millionaire either. You want an outlier situation. You don't ask a commoner how to do something exceptional because they haven't done it, or they wouldn't be so common. Now, would they? Like, I hate to say it, like that sounds tone deaf. It sounds pretentious as hell, but I'll just tell you the truth. I'm
Yeah,
not going to pull punches. I'm
Roberto,
not going
you're
to pull punches.
so
You don't take advice from a C student.
Roberto, you are so tone deaf.
I'm still right.
You're so tone deaf,
Look,
Roberto.
no, I agree. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm tone deaf all day. I don't care, Romina. I'm still fucking right. Sorry for the F-bombs, people. I'm right. Right doesn't have to hurt. Being right doesn't care about your feelings. All of my friends my entire life have told me that I value being right at the expense of other people's sincere feelings. And I said, you know what my answer was? Yeah, goddamn right I do, because being right is immutable. Your feelings, your feelings. Your feelings? Like how many people did you break up with in the last year? Your feelings are inconsistent as hell, homie. Come on. Your feelings? You're going to flip a switch on that crap. At the end of the day, my facts will hold up. My facts will hold up to the end of time, and your feelings, you'll be feeling a different way in 5 weeks. Why am I going to cater to that? Like, no. So like, I don't care about being tone deaf. I'd rather be right. I'd rather be right than cater to people's feelings. Because if I cater to people's feelings and tell them what they hear, guess what that makes me? That'd make me a damn grifter. It'd make me a damn liar. I'll be insensitive. I'll be tone deaf. What I'm not going to be is a damn liar. And y'all, not y'all in the audience, but people in general, y'all love damn liars. That's why you elect all these politicians who promise you shit and never deliver, and you never vote them out, and you never hold them accountable. They're the only people in America whose job performance doesn't actually require them to deliver on their promises. Say what you want about the corporations and the billionaires, they deliver on their promises. That's why they're rich.
Dang.
I hate politicians because they lie to the American people. I don't care what side of the aisle they're on. They lie to the American people. They keep telling them that they're poor because of rich people, as if that has anything to do with the circumstances of their life, because they get to then escape the blame for not doing their damn job. Yeah, I said the quiet part out loud.
Preach. I mean, as always, but I think it's a good thing to get it out there, right? I mean, I'm not against it.
It's hard though. It's hard though, because I understand where people are coming from. I just want them to look at facts and look at truth and verify things with their own eyes. Here's the truth, Romina. It's like the math tells you that even conservatively, if you pull out a compound interest calculator, and if you were to max out your Roth IRA, which the government at least did one thing right. They give us a Roth IRA option, and we don't get to lower our taxable income. But if you're not making like six figures, it doesn't matter, because you're probably not paying that much in taxes, or you're getting a refund check. So you're not actually paying any taxes on this money if you put it in your Roth IRA. If you were taught this in school, and this is my biggest thing, the government could let them teach this in school. The government could make them teach this in school. If they told everybody in school as a senior to, hey, max out your Roth IRA, not financial advice, for entertainment purposes only. If you max out your Roth IRA, $500 a month, I know it's a lot, it's a sacrifice, but even if you can't do that, it should be a goal. Even if you can't do that at 18 years old, I understand, but it's a goal. Put $500 a month into your Roth IRA, or $6,000 a year. That's the maximum contribution. It's the most you're allowed to do, and not have that money be taxed in the future. Why is it not taxed in the future? The capital gains and growth is not taxed in the future. What are the capital gains? The capital gains mean that if you buy Apple stock today or Microsoft stock and it grows for the next 30 years, you're only taxed on the $6,000 you put in that year on the taxable year. You're not taxed all the money that it earns over your lifetime. So if they teach everybody this, then everybody doesn't necessarily become wealthy, but everyone becomes rich. Being rich is $2 million in net worth. Being wealthy is $10 million in net worth. Most of you won't get to 10 million. I'm fighting for it. I'm not at $1 million yet, but I'm going to fight. I've got a good couple decades in me. I'm not 40 yet. I can go a couple rounds. So let's go. But if you just for 35 years, if you started at age 20 saying, I'm taking retirement seriously, I got a decent job now, or I'm going to save some money, or I'm going to be cheap, or whatever, you started at age 20, at age 55, you would have $1.1 million. You'd have $1,146,957. And this is assuming, by the way, this is not even good returns, Romina. This is assuming 8% returns by being conservative as hell or being a bad investor. S&P 500 has averaged about 14% annualized returns for the last 10 years, probably about over 12% for the entire time you and I have been alive. So like that's at least 3 good decades. I'm talking about starting with $1. I'm talking about starting with $1, putting $500 a month, not in savings, but into a Roth, and then putting that into S&P 500 index funds, not even picking good stuff like Apple and Microsoft. And you are guaranteed to be a millionaire 35 years. Now, that isn't like exciting because it's like you're 55. You still be okay when you're 55, but it's not exciting. But that's what retirement is. That's the entire point. That's the entire point of retirement.
The point is to build up enough wealth so that you don't have to be figuring stuff out. Yeah,
you can stop working if you want to, and then you can just be. You know that you can stop working 40 hours a week. You could go down to something more reasonable, or go do your passion or whatever, and know that you have enough money to live reasonably for the rest of your life. It also helps if by that time you've paid down a 15 or 30 year mortgage by that time, so that about before your 50s, so that the amount you need to live off of is much more reasonable. you can't live off of $1 million if you're in your 20s. You need more money because you're going to just live longer if you're in your 20s. So, but if you're in your 50s or your 60s, $1 million will do you. 1.5, 1.2. They really say a fully funded retirement is 3 million nowadays, but that's also people doing FIRE, trying to get financial independence, retire early, that type of thing, because they want to live for a long time, like, and retire at like 35 or 40 or something. So that's what like a fully funded retirement for most people now would kind of look like, adjusting for inflation, or if you want to live off of dividends or any of that crazy stuff. But the thing is, this is not even people getting like good returns, Romina. If somebody is doing like really savvy investing, and I know people don't think you can get these numbers, but I'll show you that I'm getting these numbers. We'll pull up my screen in a minute. But it's like, if somebody were to just max out their Roth IRA, and let's say, Romina, they were just able to get like 15% returns. That's not even that crazy. That just means you're a tech stock investor, a growth stock investor. Okay, if you could average that and just be savvy, or have a really good financial advisor or something like that, or a firm do it or something, then you'd end up with 7 million at that point at 35 years. Or if you were a good investor and you're very savvy, you could get to your 1 million, you get 1.6 in 25 years, right? So then you're doing it maybe at age 45 or 50. It just depends on reason. And that's just if you max out your Roth IRA. No one says you have to stop at maxing out your Roth IRA. You can max out your Roth IRA, but you could still just invest and be taxed on your investments. Or if you get an LLC, people don't realize that if you get an LLC, Romina, if you get an LLC, you can do like a SEP IRA like I do. I don't put away all this money, but a SEP IRA person put up to $60,000 a year away. If you did that for a good number of years, even if you got an 8% return, and you did that for 35 years, you were in business, let's just do 30, you're in business 30 years. You're retiring at 7 million just because you made bigger contributions, even starting with $1. If you start your own business, this is why I want people to start their own business in like their late 20s or their early 30s or something like that, which is reasonable. Because then when you hit retirement age, you're a millionaire because you took your profits, not because you made $1 million a year or nothing. You just took your profits and you invested as best as you knew how. And that's what's wildly practical. It's not about saving money. Saving money will never make you rich. You will never save your money. You will never save enough money to be rich, for the most part, unless you are earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and you're doing it very young, and then you're just taking all of it and keeping most of it, and you have like 90% of your money, you're able to hold on to it. You'll never save your way to being rich.
Yeah, saving is only a portion.
You have to invest and grow your money. Yeah,
because you're not growing it. You know, I mean, it's just whatever comes in is what's there. I mean, it's not. You know,
all anyone needs to save is money for an emergency fund for 6 months of living. If you want to be extreme, 12 months of living, or you save for a down payment on a house.
That's what I was gonna say.
Or you put away money to pay down debt. You only save money to pay down debt, a down payment on a house, or for a 6 to 12 month emergency fund. There's no point in holding any more cash than that. Not financial advice, but there's no point. There's no point in holding, Romina. There's no point. What's the point in holding $100,000 in a bank account liquid? There isn't. What are you going to do? Why would you do that? You just look at it and feel safe. No one needs more of a safety blanket than that. Even rich people, they only have a safety blanket of $50,000. That's it. That's their safety blanket. And that's because that's a year's worth of cost of living, because millionaires are frugal as hell because they own their house. They don't pay a mortgage. They don't pay a rent. So their cost of living, even when they're buying and doing fancy things, it's usually a tax write-off. And it's also usually they don't have a mortgage anymore. So what are they going to spend the money on? What are they going to do? Give more money to the government to not make people's lives better? Yeah, I said it.
What?
Well, I mean, they printed the same net worth as the billionaires in America. They printed $4 trillion, and I didn't see people's lives dramatically get better. I didn't see an end of poverty. I didn't see an end of homelessness. So they printed $4 trillion. So you can't even confiscate all the wealth of the billionaires and solve poverty. So what's the point?
You didn't think it changed their lives? You didn't see all the emotional videos of people getting checks in the mail? It
saved people's lives in the short term. It did not end radical poverty. That means that's what I'm getting at. You did it
because I think it helps like maybe a week.
It helps people get through a hard time. And I'm not against us helping people get through a hard time. I supported the stimulus. Like, even though we're all going to end up paying for it in taxes. Oh, those of us who pay taxes.
We already are.
Well, the top 20% of earners pay 83% of taxes, and nobody knows that because the media lies. But like, you just go to the IRS, and the IRS will show you that on their website. And when I saw this, Romina, this is the thing. Data makes me understand how badly I've been lied to my entire life and gaslit, because I should have just been showed a chart about investing in my retirement, and I would have done differently in life. If I'd been shown a chart about my Roth IRA in school, I would have lived my life differently. Everybody would. Probably, if I've been taught about investing, if I've been taught about taxes, if I've been taught about credit scores, if I've been taught financial education, I'd never have been angry or resentful at anybody for what they have, because I would have my own. It would have taken me this long. It wouldn't have taken me this long.
More importantly, you would have had your own, and you would have had autonomy.
I would have been an early investor in Apple. I would have easily been an early investor in Apple, but I was taught that, well, rich people invest money. I'm not rich, so I guess I can't buy stocks.
Or that it's dangerous.
Or that's dangerous. It's gambling. I was told the stock market is gambling. No, it's not. It's not. It's not a slot machine. I can look up what company has been successful for 10 years and make the reasonable assumption that they'll keep being successful. You can't pick a slot machine and say which slot machine has paid out the money on a 10-year, like you can't do that. Investing is not gambling. It's a calculated risk that anyone can take. But I wasn't taught that by the media. I wasn't taught that in school. My family didn't necessarily know that information. So why would I know that information? I would have lived my life totally different. And I would have therefore been an early investor in Apple if I had known that, because I was an Apple fan even back then. So I would have bought into Apple's IPO. Do you realize how cheap that'd be? I would be a millionaire off of that alone. I did the math. I checked. Just by investing $25 of my paycheck in my 20s, when I worked at the bookstore, I would have got enough Apple stock to where today I'd be a millionaire off the Apple stock if I held.
So sad.
I would have done it differently if I had known that. Or let's just say conservatively, if I had known about the Roth IRA thing, even if I couldn't put $500 in, I would have been putting $100 in for my whole entire point in my 20s. Then when I was successful, I would have been putting that money in and maxing it out throughout my 30s before I hit the cap of earning too much to be allowed to put in without doing a backdoor Roth IRA contribution and being double taxed. So I would have just done it. I would have just done things differently, and I would have just lived my life completely differently, but they never gave me the opportunity because they never gave me the information.
Right.
So that's why I wanted to do this episode.
I feel the same way too. I mean, there's a lot of I had the right instincts for certain things when I first started doing it. But because I still was unsure and didn't know what I was doing. And then lastly, because I didn't have the capital, I missed out on a lot of opportunities. I feel like I did a lot of things backwards.
I see.
I started from Z.
I hear you. I'm annoyed by it. Actually, could you share the screen? I want to show people something.
Yeah, I was just actually going to bring it up because it was the perfect segue for your screen.
Yeah, this is not, speaking of instincts. Okay, this is not my actual
confirmation. I can bring it up right now.
Yes, you can. You can bring it now. Yeah. So this is not my retirement account. This is my M1 finance portfolio. This is what I use to experiment. This is cash I can burn. This is money I'm prepared to lose. And I use it to build different portfolios of experiments for small amounts. And then when I realize, I understand this and I've done experimenting, then I throw real money at it, but it's still an experiment. And then I mimic this in my big accounts, which is why, and I'll tell you how I mimic this in my big accounts. I'm not going to show you my personal bank. I just can't risk personal information with that account because your real bank is just too sensitive. But because my retirement is tied to the bank that I use. But look at these gains. Actually, let me blow this up so people can see, because I don't think people can see.
Yeah.
So this is over time, my entire
42%.
Portfolio, 42%. Yeah. This is not normal for most people. And this is not what you should be aiming for. But this just means I'm a really savvy investor. And this is not short term. This is over a year. This is January of 2020, I believe. Starting value January of 2020, $0. And then this, right? So if you look at it, I did something really smart over here. This is a very smart experiment I did. I said, what happens if you just invest in the top 4 companies in the world in terms of market cap? What if I just buy the $1 trillion companies? If I buy fractional shares, which means I don't have to come up with a full $3,000 to buy a share of Amazon, I can just buy as much as I can afford. I can buy as much Apple, Amazon, Google, Microsoft as I can afford. So I buy into the value of those companies. Okay. And the thing is, I have a 96% return for all time on that. That's not normal. Most people wouldn't, because most people wouldn't do this, Romina. I just said, what would happen if I make a bet that the rich will get richer? Here's just the last year. The last year, just a year, 40%. To double your money every 3 years, you only need 25% returns. That's part of the law, the rule of 72. 13% for the quarter, 2% for the month, down for the week, up for the day. I don't look at this every day because I don't really need to. But if I did, I'd always be fine because, again, all I'm betting from the very beginning here, will the rich get richer? That's a bet that has worked. Look at this chart. There's almost no circumstance that would see Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Apple all go under. Amazon is having a rough time during a transition. That's normal when a CEO is transitioning. I'm buying the dip. I'm like, it's Amazon. They will be fine. I'm buying the dip. So, and this is just why I call the tech Illuminati. So this is like one portfolio I did to basically test my thesis of investing. And it was correct. I have something called top tech. I'm like, what if I just buy the biggest tech companies in the world, including the big four, but what if I expand my range? NVIDIA, that's the graphics processor that I use in this computer. AMD is what's in my MacBooks. So obviously I buy that. Facebook, I use Facebook for my business. Say what you want about them. They're the biggest social media platform with 2 billion users worldwide. And we don't have full internet adoption. Say what you want about them. They're killing it. Okay. Let's see. Adobe. I use Adobe for everything. I owe my whole career to Adobe. Apple. Use Apple products for like everything. Netflix. I use them all the time. Obviously. Microsoft. Alphabet, Google. We all use them all the time. I got out of Tesla because I'm kind of like, sorry, Elon. It's like,
You're over the memes.
Yeah, I'm probably shift this out for Shopify, to be real with you. Especially now that I have 3 Shopify stores. So like all-time return, 73%. What am I doing for the year? 30%. Remember, in 3 years, your money doubles at 25% returns. So I'm on track to do very well just off of this. So I mirrored a lot of this over in my retirement account. I have a few more investments besides this, a few more positions. My plan, though, came down to I wanted in my real retirement account, I'm like, okay, 10,000 of Adobe. I have like 8,000 Adobe, 10,000 Amazon. I have like 10,000 of Apple. I have like 10,000 of Microsoft. Google has a split where it's GOOGL and GOOG as far as Alphabet and Google.
Yeah.
And so I have about, I would say, I think I have 3,500 of each. So I'm up to like 7,000 there. This is M1 Finance for anyone wanting. This is M1 Finance. So I have very good investing instincts because I'm buying companies I actually use in my own company and business every single day. All of these obviously survived the pandemic because I bought at the beginning of January of 2020 for all of this to run my experiment before I knew there was a pandemic, by the way.
Yeah.
So good instincts on, I'll just buy really good companies in tech long-term and everything.
I actually benefited from that as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
because our DM group.
Yeah. And well, I mean, I think I mentioned it too in our group that, I mean, last year, like my portfolio went
to the moon.
Yeah, it was like over 300% return, which was like insane.
Yeah. Like, Romina, this is a more recent portfolio I made because I made some new portfolios with $100 to split to test different market verticals. And so this one is called tech innovation. So look at Shopify, 35% since I put in, right?
Right.
That's crazy. And by the way, this is a new portfolio. When I say this is a new portfolio, April of 2016. So since April 26, 2021. So this is literally the last, 3-4 months.
Right.
So in the last 3-4 months, my bet on Shopify was really good. It's too bad it's so small. But oh wait, I mirror this in my larger accounts. So 35%. Eventually, I want $10,000 of Shopify as well. Zoom. Zoom has still gone up, even with a pandemic theoretically waning. It's still gone up 19%. That's crazy. And Zoom will keep going up as internet adoption goes up. Roku,
also because they're adding so many features as well.
Yeah, people are sleeping on Roku. Look at that. Oh, Square, they've been announcing doing more stuff with Bitcoin, up 13%. Not bad at all. Again, these aren't crypto gains. Crypto gains are insane. I thought that, this company doing innovation with healthcare would go up. I thought Tesla might do something. Elon's been screwing around too much.
I'm surprised with Spotify. What's going on there?
I think they've been spending too much money buying exclusivity, so that means that their margins are down. But they don't really have that much. They spent too much on Joe. Well, not just Joe. They bought Call Her Daddy for $60 million, which is actually not bad. I mean, I think that'll be smart long term.
Isn't that? Mm-hmm. How much did they pay Joe?
$100 million.
That's crazy, man.
That's crazy that Alex Cooper, who was quote unquote nobody just not that long ago. Crazy, right?
That's insane.
That she's wild. Almost worth as much as Joe Rogan already. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
I mean, that's unheard of,
that means she built a good IP and brand and everything like that. Her partner Sophia with an F screwed up royally.
Yeah.
Yep. But
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, if you're
Unity
listening
software.
to this. If you're listening to this, then subscribe and follow us on Spotify.
But look, people are sleeping on things like Roku and Unity, and people because Twitter's toxic. It's I'm investing in it anyway. It's not up huge, but it's hey,
you're part of the problem.
Twitter might go up. Twitter could go up because think about it. If Twitter's up 3% when the sentiment is this bad toward the platform,
right.
Right, so buy the dip is what I'm buy the dip. I'm a lunatic. So again, I look at this stuff and that's my innovation portfolio. That's not bad for a new portfolio. I have a safe thing to say, okay, let's do the boring index funds. Let's go. And I just want to see which ones are performing so that I can say, okay, not gonna go into ironically, ARK Invest is down, which you would think it wouldn't be the case since it's a bunch of tech stocks and everything like that. But they buy some losers. Are
you in all of the ARK ones or just these two?
I'm in a couple. I'm in a couple of them, but I picked and choose, and I don't trust their investing instincts in some of these sectors over mine. But I looked, and so then I built out some of my portfolio, but then I used my own instincts on some of these things.
Right, to build that on. Yeah.
Let's look at fintech. Look at fintech.
Yeah.
Shopify is part of fintech, and that's up
there. Yeah.
Square. C is up. Square is up. PayPal is not as up as you would think, but it's up. I was really shocked that Coinbase didn't come through.
Me too. I'm shocked at how bad Pinterest about it.
Yeah, I'm shocked at how bad Pinterest and Zillow are doing, especially with the crazy real estate market right now. I'm shocked by that. But you pick some winners and some losers. But this is a good test for me because I'm you would think that JP Morgan should be crushing it. So now I that. This told me, buy more Shopify, buy more Square, buy more C instead of the things you would think. PayPal, JP Morgan. Your instinct would be, but I have the data. You see what I'm saying? I just use this to test the data. And then I can go to my real retirement account with Merrill and go, I'm going to buy shares of this or that. So I buy the fractional shares here to test the market. Same thing when I use Public or Robinhood or any of that. I'm using those for experiments and for public to also show people publicly, hey, here's what I think and here's why and here's what the things. So in robotics, I'm who are the top leading companies in innovation in robotics? Well, Google, which is obviously up, Tesla, which is down, NXP Semiconductors is up a little bit, so nice. Trimble, which nobody knows about, 7%. I'll take it. People don't realize John Deere has been innovating in robotics and stuff like that. I thought Baidu would do better, but whatever. And so I'm okay, winners and losers. I know what the winners or losers are. It was $100 to learn the lesson and have the data, and I'll continue to have it and stay informed. And I can move accordingly because I have smaller stakes to teach me what is real. You get what I'm saying? So I went through all these different things. This was SPACs. This was Chamath, the former Facebook billionaire.
Yeah.
I was like, he thinks he's gonna be the next Warren Buffett. All of his SPACs, all of his speculative acquisition companies, everything
that's
that
a lot of red.
That's a lot of red, hella red. I put money in here to see, okay, does this guy think he's gonna be the next Warren Buffett? Let's do, and like I use this sometimes when people, I like Chamath. I do. I really like him, believe it or not. I love his podcast. I love the podcast with him and the boys. Like I love what they're doing over there. But when people keep telling me how brilliant he is and stuff like that, and you can be brilliant and you can still take losses, I keep reminding people that this all went red right after he said he was going to be the next Warren Buffett. I'm like, this is what I use for a lesson in humility for people. I don't mind continuing to bleed some money on this just to have textbook data on not necessarily trusting self-proclaimed geniuses. You know?
I do want to answer
let's go. Let's answer some questions
in the chat. And also, just because like we'll probably start wrapping up in about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Or 10 minutes. I don't know. Anyway,
something like
but
that.
I think that to kind of like wrap things up, I also want to do like a bullet, bullet points, like a summary of what we did, because I think that kind of answers Anthony's question, because Dr. Anthony Cashman would like to know, Doc wants to know, how can I invest and, set up retirement accounts? You should be saving.
Well, first of all, go and talk to a financial advisor at your bank. Talk to a qualified and certified financial advisor. You can talk to one at your bank. People don't realize. All right, Romina, let's start with this. And if you want, you can close this window out if you want.
Yeah, I will.
Unless we need it for reference.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the first things you should do is you should be talking to money about people who are certified and people who are held legally accountable to act in your own interest. Financial advisors at your bank, fiduciaries, people like that, right? So one of the other things you do beyond that, though, is most people are ignorant about all of this. Just like you asked, and you're an educated person, why? How do I set up a retirement account? Why don't I know these things? Whatever. It's that they like, and that's the biggest problem. People are so quick to blame the rich and blame the billionaires, when the real answer is you need to ask yourself, who did not teach you about how to retire? Who did not teach you about how to invest? Who did not teach you about interest rates on loans? Who did not teach you about how money actually works? Who didn't teach you about taxes? And whose responsibility is it? Is it your parents who aren't rich because they don't have any basis to tell you any of those things? If your parents aren't rich and they're only as educated as they can be, so is it their responsibility? I don't think it is solely their responsibility, because how could they know? They weren't taught. But here's the truth. 95% of the American population passes through public school. If we wanted people to know about money, they could know about money. You're required to take sciences you'll never use, levels of math you'll never use, and electives that don't matter. You're not required to learn about money and how to fix you're not required to learn how to pay your taxes, how to qualify for a mortgage, how to acquire and build credit, and you're not taught how to invest for your own retirement. If the government really wanted to deal with income inequality and wealth inequality in America, they would make sure that the 95% of people who pass for the public education system are armed with that knowledge so they have a fighting chance. They'd also make sure no one leaves the public education system without having a trade. It's very rare to find an electrician, a plumber, a welder, or a mechanic that is starving to death. It's very rare. So they should make sure everyone has a trade or should have free vocational training after high school. And then no one would have a lack of an ability to make money outside of a minimum wage, non-skilled, non-specialized work. And if they were armed with financial education, they would then be able to take their money and put it to work, whether they're rich or not, and they would retire rich, they would retire younger, they would retire financially solvent, and most of the country would not be in debt if they understood how money and debt and loans and mortgages and all of these things. The entire 2008 financial crisis could have been avoided, yes, by people having good ethics, but also people being educated enough to not be swindled in the first place. It's very hard to have scammers win when we're armed with the knowledge to see through the scam. And all of us could have that since 95% of us pass through the public education system. It is the single most important thing you could probably do to move toward eliminating and phasing us out of poverty or deep poverty in America, or at least income and wealth inequality, and increase economic mobility for the working and middle class. Literally, this is the answer. I'm not even joking. I showed you the math myself. I showed you, and I'm just pissed that I didn't learn this 20 years ago, because I should have been given this knowledge for free in the public education system.
Wait, Roberto, we're trying to give the people knowledge now. Let's not focus on the back on what happened.
Here's what you have to do. You got to go to the bank and open a retirement account. You could also do this. You could do this on your mobile phone in your banking app, but I recommend that you go face to face at your local bank, wear a mask, go face to face at your local bank and talk to someone there and open a retirement account and have them explain it to you to your face.
Now, is that what you did?
Yes. And the thing is, and what you do is, now here's where I went wrong. I didn't know what questions to ask. And I also didn't consider too many things. The problem is I started too late, Romina, because I started at a high income bracket. So I didn't get to put as much into my Roth. I now have to talk to my accountants to try to move stuff to my Roth, and I'll probably be double taxed, but I'll be better off. So that's complicated. Let's keep to the simple stuff. You have the ability to have a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. Now, a lot of people are going to tell you to go traditional IRA because they're like, oh, you can lower your taxable income because the government lets you take any money you put into that and take it off of your taxable income. All that does is potentially increase your refund check, because if you're watching this, the odds are you're probably not paying taxes. You're getting a refund check. You're paying taxes up front. You're overpaying. Then they give you a refund, which means your tax bill ends up zeroing out. So that means there's no savings to really be had by you doing a traditional IRA, from my perspective, not a financial advisor. A Roth, on the other hand, you're taxed on that money as regular income. That's fine for those contributions. The maximum contribution for you, if you're not of retirement age, is about, or in your 50s, is about $6,000 a year. So at $6,000 a year, you're not taxed heavily on that because you're probably not making a substantial amount of money anyway to pay more in taxes. So it won't matter. What will matter is the fact that you won't be taxed on the gains on that money when you ultimately retire and you need to withdraw it. So you pay taxes now and you don't pay taxes on what it's worth in the future. So you're betting on the future when you do a Roth IRA. Now, what you don't do is you don't put that money there and then just forget it and sit on it. Now that that money is there, you have to invest it in something that grows, because now this is money that's future growth is protected. If you let it sit there, you'll get fractions of a percentage of interest, which is meaningless. If you want to then invest it, you look at something like I did here, where I showed you my portfolios. Now, my portfolios are aggressive. My portfolios are growth-based. I bet on tech stocks. Okay. And I use the word bet loosely. This is not gambling. It's investing. You can do research. You can make educated decisions. What most people do to be safe, because they are working class and middle class, and what most financial gurus will tell you, the Graham Steffens and so on of the world will tell you, is that the safest thing, and he does this, so he's putting his money where his mouth is index funds. Index funds are a bundle of stocks. You are not picking individual stocks. You're basically betting on America at that point, that, oh, America will be fine. The average for the S&P 500 when you do index funds, whether it's Vanguard index funds, Fidelity index funds, so on and so forth, you'll find stock tickers like VOO or VOW or VO and so on and so forth. Those are Vanguard index funds. They're bundling the top performing companies in America together and then giving you small slivers of those companies so that your risk is spread out across a portfolio of companies. I pick individual stocks because I am, in my own estimation, a savvy investor. I almost meet the qualifications to be an accredited investor, believe it or not. I almost meet those qualifications. And so I'm educated. I wasn't when I started. So when I started with index funds. And so that means that
I did the opposite, man. I was like, I did the individual stocks first, and then I started, because I was like, I jump into the deep end, and that's how I do everything, you know? and so I started with the individual stuff, and then I realized I really started to understand like ETFs and and index funds and all that. And when I did, I was like, oh my God, what?
I know.
Yeah, I could just get like just throw my money somewhere and have someone else divide it up for me. That's great. So now I
don't
do
have
both.
to rack my brains about any.
Right. So it's like
so
the ETFs and stuff is more like a safety net. It's like, okay, well, if I done goofed in one area, then like I got safety in another one because somebody else is being a little bit more cautious than I am, right? Or at least you hope that they are, right? So I think that having like a variety of it is really good. I think that like looking up people like that, you know, like Graham Stephan and now Sorrell, and like sometimes you post not really financial advice, but more like business, but also knowing what to do with your money.
With the money when you got it,
Right. So I think that doing that sort of thing, and I've done stuff on like debt and stuff like that. So I think that all of this information is available on YouTube.
And it's out there for free.
There's online courses that you can take on Udemy. There's all sorts of this stuff that's available. And like basically what it comes down to is investing in the stock market, having some kind of retirement account, whether it is a Roth IRA or whatever is the best one that's suited for you. And then also remember, having a little bit of savings.
You're not limited to your Roth IRA and that contribution. And for some of you, if you have a job and you're employed, some of your employers offer what's called a 401k. That's a retirement account, and you have to ask them, do they do employer matching, or what's their maximum limit? Because what they'll do is if you put money away for your retirement, they'll match you, which means you can double your money. Means that means if you were putting away, let's say you're putting away $200 a month because that's all you can afford, your employer might match you. If they do full matching, then that means you put in 200, they put in 200. So you got 400 for the month. So there's that. Some companies invest you in the company and make you a shareholder in the company. Not all of them, but some of them do. This is also my problem, by the way, with like some kinds of social activists. They'll boycott a company and talk about they're helping the workers, like with Publix, for example. Or actually, they weren't trying to help the workers. They were just mad at the heiress who owns it because she was a Trump supporter. But they actually hurt the workers because Publix is a company where all the employees are shareholders in the company. So they hurt the current employees because the stock price went down, and they hurt all the retirees. But they thought they were doing something good, because they were calling out this woman who will always be rich and is super old, and thought that they could hurt her wealth in any significant way by calling for boycotts of her company or trashing the company that her family owns, when all they did was hurt employees and hardworking people who
ended up doing more harm than good.
Exactly so. So just understand that my frustration
with all of this, if they had just let the old lady do what she wanted to do, called it a day, within a couple of days, we'd be done. It would have been over, right?
They hurt retirees who are shareholders in the company where their pension, their income comes from, and they hurt the employees because of the fact that their future retirements could have been worth more. And they did that all for a drop of clout. And it's meaningless. So that's why I don't like any of this stuff. That's why I tell people to educate yourself, arm yourself, insulate yourself from all of it, inoculate yourself against all of it, be educated about money. Don't join things. If you have a cause, you build your thing, you fight for your thing on your terms. Don't join other people's battles, because they're not in your interest. They won't ever be. They will that's just sober, cynical advice from someone almost 40 who's seen how the world works. I've seen it time and time and time again. They keep promising you that they can defeat the masters of the universe, that they know how to slay gods, and they always come up short. Why join? It'll be different this time. It has not been different in your grandparents, your parents' generation, your generation. It's like, if you want it to be different, you make it different. But don't join people who make promises they can't keep. Because all of them are liars and charlatans and grifters. Because if they were so certain, if they really wanted to change the world, you know who changes the world? Hate to break it to you, millionaires and billionaires change the world every time. Steve Jobs changed the world. Bill Gates changed the world. Mark Zuckerberg changed the world, and everything like that. Where's these people's contribution? Where's these people's contribution that actually affects millions, if not billions of people. There isn't one. They want you to do the work for them. Like, that's the truth. And I hate to say it that way and be super cynical. And I'm not trying to play politics. I'm trying to talk you out of politics. It's a farce. It's a farce. All you need to do to live a better life than you live now is specialize in skills that will provide you a good living with you not doing shit you hate, and make as much money as possible by specializing in those skills, mastering your craft. Make as much as you can ethically within your means. Take that money, put that money to work in companies you believe in, which are probably companies you use for your living or that you love and that you entertained by and that you enjoy. Put it in stuff you like. Put it in Corsair because you're a gamer. Put it in Nvidia because you're a gamer. Put it in Disney or Netflix or whatever thing you get value and you get joy out of and that's meaningful in your life. And don't let nobody shame you and say that that's a bad thing or a bad company or whatever. You live your life, let them live theirs. End of story. Just invest in something that you have evidence and proof of getting value from and gains from and that you will believe will stick around, and do it in a savvy way. Talk to educated people about it. Talk to people at your bank. Talk to an accountant. Talk to a CPA. Then make sure it's all tax advantage. Make sure you're filing your taxes correctly, but also no one should pay more taxes than the law says they ought to pay. And if you think that it's ignoble to avoid paying more taxes, that's a farce, because again, the government is not spending that to make people's lives better. You're just really financing the military industrial complex for the tune of like, isn't that like 60% of the federal spending anyway, Romina? It's like, so it's like you're going to do, like, if you don't believe in trickle down, why ask anyone to pay more taxes? Because the taxes for social programs, you get people make the argument themselves. They say we spend the smallest percentage of the overall federal spending on helping people. And that's the argument that people say when they want more taxes. If literally you're only going to be taking the smallest sliver of the budget for social programs to help people, why are you pretending that raising more taxes will help people when what it will really do is 60% plus of it will go to the military?
Just consolidate, yeah.
60% plus of it will go to the military. Do you believe in that? Do you believe in everything we're doing there? I'm the son of a soldier. And my dad told me better. He told me, no, you should know better. And
well, if you don't, right. So it's like, if you don't, you end up, either way, you end up, that's the problem with taxes, is that you end up paying for stuff you don't
believe
actually want to pay in. That you don't want to pay.
Even if you don't,
even if you even if you have absolutely no opinion, which
even if you're probably investing, when you pay taxes, you're investing your money in things you don't believe in, one way or another. You're investing in things you don't believe in, usually at some point at the behest of people you didn't vote for. And they're trying to convince you that that's correct and more noble than you investing your hard-earned money in things you do believe in, that you think makes the world a better place, and that is for the benefit of you and your family.
And the thing is
like
that,
a scam. Doesn't that sound like a scam? And again, I do think our taxes do some good things. Infrastructure spending is great.
I think some stuff is great. I mean, we have roads. That's a good thing.
Things that help people in need. If most of our stuff was for stuff like universal healthcare, UBI, infrastructure, education spending was increased, and roads, no one would complain about taxes. No one would complain about taxes if they actually saw their taxes improve the lives of the people around them. They would not complain. I would certainly not complain. But that doesn't happen, and it's never happened, and they haven't shown us a budget proposal where that actually happens and how they can pay for it. And so what's the point of then shaming people for saying, I want to contribute less to you having a say in my life, and then doing things I don't believe in, and I want more of a say in my life, and I want to keep more of my money, and I want to do things I believe in with that, instead of you telling me what's good and what's right, and you using that largely to infringe on people in other countries. What is so wrong about wanting to pay less taxes if you're doing it legally? That's the problem. And the thing is, the media will tell you and gaslight you into thinking you're doing something really good. But if they showed anybody the federal budget when they'd say we want more taxes, and they showed you the federal budget and they showed you what percentage is actually helping people in need, you would understand that that sounds like a scam. You'd be like, think about it. If I said, hey, we have a charity and we're going to help people, and then I showed you that literally only like 18% of the money helps people, and then we spent the rest buying AK-47s, you'd say I was a scam, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem. People want to make their country better. They want to invest in, you know what's actually made their country better? The companies in America have made our lives better. The internet has made our lives better. Apple, Google, Microsoft have made our lives better. Tesla is making it to where we will have lower carbon emissions, you know, despite the slide in the stock price. Like, like innovation, technology, education, advancements make our life better. Remember when we were talking about the space program and how much that made our lives better when they started going up into space and all the technology?
I think the idea here is that if we want to invest in our future, in our retirement, then we have to invest in the present. And that includes these companies, right?
And facts. Invest in these companies, invest in what you believe in. Not my portfolio, not whatever you believe in. Whatever your financial advisor tells
you. Speaking of financial advisors, I advise that we start wrapping up soon.
Oh, that's fine. Romina, did you want to add like anything specific to the excuse me. Did you want to add anything specific? Because like I know your background is more like you focused on getting out of debt, which I also did, but you focused more on getting out of debt. Like, what do you think between getting out of debt versus investing? Because that's a big one for people. They don't know which one to do when they come into extra money.
Oh yeah, I think that the first thing is to start getting out of debt as much as possible. Everybody's in debt in some regard, right? The matter is like how much of it, and is it actually something that where you're in the negative, or is it just because you're living, right? So there's like the idea is to remove as much debt as possible so that it isn't a hindrance, so that you aren't paying more interest rates than you are paying down your debt. So whatever that amount is for you, you know, it could be $500 or it could be $5,000, right? So it just depends on what your expenses are and how you live and all of that stuff. And I think that even as I was, first of all, when I was completely in debt, I focused on removing that debt first. And then as I saw I was starting to get more comfortable, like I had a lot less, I mean, like maybe like half of my debt, I started to focus on saving, and I did it in a very, very small amount. So I would start with like $1, $5. Like I would just, that's how much I was putting away every month, not every week, not every day, every month. So we're talking about like very small increments, because the focus was always to get rid of the debt as much as possible. Because I only ever want debt that I know that I can pay off in X amount of time now.
Or
so it's
that
like,
can be leveraged as an asset, like a mortgage.
Right, exactly. Like, for example, if I get a like some kind of equipment or something for my business, then it's something that, okay, here it is.
If you can pay it off in 6 to 12 months because of the zero financing.
Right, exactly. So it's stuff like that where it's like I make a plan so that I'm able to pay stuff off, and that's the focus. And that's a different kind of debt. That isn't a debt that's like I was in trouble and I'm suddenly now, you know, 50,000 negative, and I have to like eat cup of noodles for the rest of my life. Like that's a totally different kind of debt.
I think the only way people get that level of debt, unless they're doing like frivolous spending, is usually medical emergencies without insurance, because of then not having a deductible and a cap for out of pocket, or, which is why I believe in universal healthcare of some kind, not necessarily M4A, but something. And then, because I don't think anyone should ever go into debt or bankrupt because they got sick, because that's not their fault. And then the other thing is student loan debt. Student loan debt's outrageous. And no one's taught about the interest rates, because the problem is you might have actually paid off your student loan debt, but you can't outrun the interest. And that keeps compounding, and they don't tell you that. And they don't show you what's called an amortization calendar. I think it should be a legal requirement that whenever you take out a loan, any loan officer of any institution should be required to show you an amortization calculator and show you what you will actually pay if you only pay the minimum payments and what your payoff date is, because then people would realize, oh crap, I'm going to end up with this thing for 30 years. Maybe this is not a good decision. They keep lying to children and their parents and telling them that college is the best investment they will ever make, when the reality is that they should all go to community college for 2 or 3 years, then transfer to a bigger school or stay in state and don't go out of state. And then you can do that and do
make sacrifices,
do a Pell Grant and do things like that. And you could end up with a zero cost education. We figured out enough financial jujitsu to where my sister, for this year of college and probably next year, my sister will have zero student loan debts because we figured out the financial jujitsu required to do that legally. So she, is going to be fine because she's in state.
We have all sorts of stuff and programs that are coming out now, like outside of the government. Like for example, Outlier, which is created by the same people who did Masterclass, and they're taking professors and creating these beautiful classes that are credits. They count towards your higher education. And obviously, like, they're just getting started, so their selection of courses is very low. But they're highly produced courses, and it's online education, but it's beautiful, and it doesn't have to be expensive. So I think that just to kind of wrap things up, like there are a lot of options out there, and we're fortunate enough now that we live in a time that we have access to all of this information and that we have access to these opportunities, because just even like 15, 20 years ago, like the idea of a regular Joe just like investing in the stock market was really absurd. Just kind of like
it was rarely done because they just didn't know.
Because they didn't know, and because it wasn't that easily accessible. Like, you'd have to go to a bank, like you'd have to go to brokerage, and like all this stuff was just not as accessible and attainable for just anybody walking down the street.
That's why my biggest thing is, since 95% of people pass through public education, it should be part of a public education. No excuses, no reason not to.
Yeah, because I mean, it's there now, right? And like, I see kids now, which is something that's super cool. I see kids now with like their Robinhood, like they have the Robinhood card. Like they're just like buying stuff with like the Robinhood card. And I'm like, what? That's dope. Like, he's just dope. Like, how much money does he have in his Robinhood account that he just buy some Burger King?
These kids are killing it, because these kids are killing it. And because they're investors at like 16 and 18 years old, they have their whole financial future ahead of them. It's going to be amazing because they have all those years to get compound interest, and they don't have any debt yet. It's amazing. I mean, I wish we could have done that. That would have been dope.
Oh, what a time to be alive. If I would have done that, man, forget it.
I'd be a millionaire for sure.
Who would be talking to me? You wouldn't be talking to me. Nobody would be talking to me. I'd be on an island
somewhere. On your island somewhere. Like, you would have been up there with you would have.
Yeah, I would have been up there with Bezos. I would have been like, hey.
Right. But
I mean, there's a time and a place for everything, and there's also like goals, and I think that also establishing the fact that create goals for yourself and the kind of life that you want to live.
Not Roberto to chase anybody else.
Yeah, Roberto and I have very clear goals of what we want to do, and I think even Roberto might be even more ambitious than I am, which is saying something. Because
I'm a lunatic. That's why.
But not everybody has to be like us either. I mean, like, not everybody needs to be a millionaire, So people
can be happy
with like half of that. Right?
I think you should be retired as a millionaire. I think everybody should do that.
Right. Just to in my mind, right? And that's our opinion too. But
I just don't want people working their whole lives like my grandmother did to then not have anything. To not have anything.
Or on the flip side, in relation to mine, losing everything at an old age.
Yeah, facts. Like, there's Yeah, that's the other thing is that's the other reason why also talking to the right financial people and that makes sense and that's important. And then diversifying so that you could lose a lot of money. That's why you saw I have an M1 portfolio. Guys, I have every single app and my goal is eventually to have like over $10,000 diversified in each of these apps while I also build my big retirement account. But I'm hedging against anything by just diversifying in terms of my assets being spread out. I hold some cash. I don't have much cash, but I want to start holding more cash and stacking that just for emergency purposes in case electronics or internet or something isn't right. Like, because I'm now paranoid about that. I had the whole debacle with PayPal and I'm like, okay, I used to let money accumulate in my PayPal account. No more. It comes in, I get it out.
Oh, yeah. No. As soon as I have something in PayPal, it's out. Like I don't know how people actually have like their debit cards and like actually just like live on PayPal. I'm like, nah. Like as soon as there's like $2 in there, it's like
for me, there's some stuff that I have that is paid out through PayPal recurring. Yeah. So like, and then I leave money in there somewhat because of having freelancers. But see,
I never allowed that system to be created. I was just like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not.
Well, the problem is that also with me, every affiliate program requires pretty much you to be
right. Exactly.
And I have all of that. Like, so I have like 20 affiliate programs. So that's the problem.
Right. It makes it difficult to manage it elsewhere. Like it just kind of has to live there.
Yeah. But the thing is now I'm just rapidly, when it gets to a, like,
X amount.
If it's not a small amount, I'm like, give it to me. Give it to me. Because also, the damn transfer fees. That's the other reason I used to let it accumulate was just to not let them get like, oh, you're not going to get me because I know what the maximum cap on the fees are. Ha ha ha.
Oh.
So, but the anxiety is not worth saving a couple of bucks for me. So I'm like, no, thank you. Like, so.
Yeah, no.
They always win somehow, That's the thing. They always get you. I keep debating making a video about this, but like, because they were also a sponsor, and I'm like, I'm not above burning a bridge to tell the truth, mind you. That's the other difference between me and some people is like, I'll do that. That's like, fine, I'll do that. But the thing is, I'm not leaving PayPal. I want to be respectful. I also don't want them saying, oh, next time he has a problem, don't expedite his stuff. Like, so I'm going to be smart and thoughtful about it. Because again, I still love PayPal for what it is. It's too damn convenient. I just need them to I need them to do better so that people who aren't as big as me and can't apply pressure know that they're going to be okay. Because like not everyone's going to have the ability to get them to do their problem in under 24 hours like I did. That's not going to be like, I don't want people to be screwed over. So I feel like obligated, even if it's not in my best interest, to advocate for other people with that. So, it's like, it's just like we're trying to advocate for y'all now by telling y'all, here's the problem. With this is why you need to do tax advantage accounts. Here's why you need an accountant. Here's why you need a retirement. Here's why you need a plan. Here's why you need to invest I want you guys to have a really good life. And I wish someone had told me this when I was younger.
Yeah. It's better to think about it now than it is to think about it later. And it's never too late. And that's the important thing to remember too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, unless you're like 80, then it's probably too late.
I don't know. We are sitting here. We sitting out here getting these people getting older and older. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, true that.
I saw like 90-year-olds like survive COVID and stuff like that's crazy.
It's always the old people, man. It's like you think like everybody's like, oh man, like
they've become immune to everything apparently.
Right. Think of the grandmas, and then
oh, it turns out I'm immune to death. I'm Betty White. I'm immune to death.
Betty White. Yeah, exactly.
Like, I have the antibodies for death now. Like, I swear, Betty White probably does have the antibodies for death.
She's for sure in the Illuminati. Like 100%.
She's immortal. She's they made a joke about that I forget what show she was in like a couple of years ago, and they did a thing where they was like the doctor was telling her, "I'm not convinced you won't live forever," and it's like
I feel like she's been 80 for like the past 50 years.
I feel like Betty White has been old my whole life, like
100%. Yeah, like
crazy. She was in the Golden Girls at retirement age when I was born, like.
Yeah, I mean, you wanna say that, but it's 100% true.
It's crazy.
She's always had white hair.
I wonder what her investment portfolio looks like. To be real with you,
yeah, she's investing in herself clearly.
Yeah, well, yeah, clearly. It's like like Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
That's a good place to bookmark it.
Betty White paying our respects.
Yeah. Oh, Andy, man. The one woman Golden Girls reunion. Ouch, man. I wonder if she might have even outlived the younger cast at this point, to be honest with you. Like, that's crazy. Crazy. I don't know. All right. Thank you for listening to the No Assembly Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing and we save your financial future from the claws of everybody who wants your money. Tune in next week when we will have the return of Audrey Firefox Ember. This has been your duo of hosts signing off. Please follow us in all the things at No Assembly Pod. We will catch you next time. This has been Romina from outer space, and of course, your Dark Lord of the interwebs, Roberto Blake. Thank you for listening. See you next week. Nop.